Here I just bought a Trek 2200 SL aluminum frame made in the United States. Oh man, what will this cost you after this?
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop, taking Skewer out of used bikes one bike at a time.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe.
Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy. On this whole bike series is what is gonna cost you. So if you bought yourself a used bike and it looks similar to this kind of a train wreck, yeah, you may have gotten yourself into a pickle. It may have been something one of those was like too cheap to pass up, or somebody's like gifted you, hey, I got a bike, you want this? And like, oh, okay, sure, I heard you're into riding, okay, awesome. Anywho, however you acquired a beast like this, it's actually possibly a good diamond in the rough. Good bones, you would say, in a house industry. You're like, oh, it has good bones. You can do a lot of refurbishing on it. But, you know, you got to know when to say when. And it all depends how much you want to put into it. But anywho, if you were to take this particular bike and roll it to any bike shop, Trek, your local, anybody that has service, they're going to go, there's a lot of things. And we're going to go over that right now. But since there's rust on there, I've had my tetanus shot, but I don't want to take any risks. So anywho, the Trek 2200 is a staple for Trek. It's been around for a long time. The newer version is the 2.2 or 2.1 aluminum versions of it. So it is just the same model, just newer framing. This is actually a pretty cool frame because they did the higher grade welds on them with the Alpha series aluminum, which is pretty decent. So it does have technically good bones, and these were workhorse frames. I mean, hardly anything was wrong with them out of the gate, hardly any warranties, that my perspective of being a service manager when they were new and the years after. And it did have decent componentry. This one has actually Ultegra throughout, except for the brakes are 105. 105 and Ultegra brakes, you're not going to really notice the difference between the two. The wheels, though, are not OEM. These are actually, they're Ultegra hubs with XCP22. So if they're true and clean, we got ourselves a diamond in the wheel set for sure. What I picked this bike up for, the wheel set alone, if I sold those, would actually double my money. So it's one of those situations where I knew it would be a good bike. I can see through literally the rust and the leaves that were on it to determine like, okay, I think I could have something to work with here. But first and foremost, when you do look for a road bike or a bike any of nature, you want to do your research on sizing. So if there's a specific model or a type of bike, like if you're gravitating towards Trek or whatever, or if not, if you just see something out there like, oh, that looks like a pretty cool Schwinn or whatever, Ibis, you know, I know I'm all over the board, but you get my drift. Then you look up the size charts of that particular model and hopefully around the year or the vintage of it, and then you can determine if what size will fit you the best, or the best chance of fitting you. And sizes do have a range to them, so there's adjustments and so forth, yes. But you don't want to get, something too small or something too big and make your ride experience not the greatest. So you definitely want to take that investment and put into it. And once you put that time investment into it and knowing like, okay, that's the right size, you show up, go for a test ride on the bike. In that case, if you're a tech like me and know what to work on the bike, you probably won't even want to test ride the bike. You're just going to go through and check the gears and see if the wheels are true and all that. But for an individual that's not tech savvy or hasn't been known to do work on bikes and so forth that much, you definitely want to be able to get on that bike and test ride it. So if the bike is not test rideable, walk away, or make sure you ask prior. Save yourself a lot of time. Ask those questions. Are you the original owner? What size is it? if they don't know, could you measure it for me? And then you can do your reference on it. On top of that, what kind of use it's been used, that kind of deal. Is it test rideable? Is it air up? Just shift gray? When's the last time it's had a tune? Those kinds of things. And I do have a top 5 list to check out. That will help you kind of get out of the gate, or if you really want to get in the weeds of it, I do have a top 20 list you can check out. And that particular will help you determine, is it the right bike for you? Is it in good shape and so forth? Pictures will really definitely help you get it there. But, actually sitting in person, that's a whole different can of worms. But anyway, sidebar that. So yes, this is rust. When you see this much rust on the chain, you know it's going to be replaced. You just know it's going to cost that. So let's dive in here. It looks like they had tires that had a tread on them, more kind of like your pseudo gravel tire for skinny. These were kind of cool tires. Reason being is it turns into kind of a gravelish, but it's still a road bike. You still have to fit that spacing. But these particular Continental, those are the contact ones. Those are pretty nice. So hopefully these will clean up and be salvageable. And to test for dry rot, you just squish it, that kind of thing. And I feel the hub. Well, the hub feels smooth, not loose. Just a lot of this icky dirt and grime. This is going to get in a tank and get all cleaned up and get all the cobwebs off of it and fuzz. But other than that, I think the wheels were okay on this guy. They don't look like they've had a lot of wear. So in this particular model, it was the Bontrager Perispos, probably the Bontrager Select wheels, which they did have a tendency of cracking at the rim wheel where the eyelets are. And a lot of cases, people would just swap out the whole wheel, sometimes just the rear. So looking at the front brake looks pretty good. We're okay there. I'm going to replace all the cables and housing. The bar tape on this is done. Well, most of the time you want to get rid of that. Here's another little tricky bit. Like on these little guys, the Ultegras and the 105s of this vintage has like this caps on them. And these are just decal caps for what the brand is in the model. These broke so easily. It's one of those things that it just looks like it's damaged, but it is not. It's one of those things where you just need to replace it, or you can just leave it exposed because it does already have its casing and the shifter is protected. It's just aesthetic. So don't be totally warned away. But you want to double check where the housing fits into and make sure there's no cracks and so forth in those areas where it is compromising the shifting and so forth. Stem looks good. Headset seems smooth. I will be taking off these fenders. It's most of my guys and gals don't do, whew, that just kind of peeled right off. Fenders. Oh, this is interesting. This fork is not a match on this particular one, so it has been upgraded to the HCM carbon Bontrager fork. So there's a win. You got the wheels that are win. That's if hopefully these are not dry rotted. I'll probably use these myself on something. Anywho, the cables definitely need replaced. The fork's a win. Front wheels so far, the ball cages are okay. They look like they're going to be intact. They actually use band clamps on the frame here, so I'm going to take this rack off. It's not going to be too scarred. Same thing here on the rack. These are nice little quick release racks. And what brand is this? Let's check that out. Oh, SKS's. Yeah, these are kind of cool. Decent for the time and the day. So, yeah, those might be something I'll be using on my personal bikes if I ever so inclined to do so. So let's check the rear wheel here. The rear wheel skewer does match the front, so that's good. So that's definitely a positive. I mean, it doesn't have to match, but a lot of times on these older bikes, they'll make a skewer, or they'll switch out the skewer to a trainer skewer, so it doesn't have a plastic cap for that. If you do come across that, ask them if they do have the original skewer. A couple times, twice, 2 times out of 100, they'll have it. Oh, that's very smooth. So that chain, check the, ooh, those are kind of loose. Interesting. That wheel is kind of wobbly a little bit. That may not be salvageable. We'll see. Or maybe the spokes are just... You see, you know, you can check spoke tensions, and they're not supposed to do this. They're supposed to be really firm. So let's just say this wheel is toast in hopes that it's okay. But I'm having a sneaky suspicion this is, since it was a commuter bike, the wheel is probably toast. So, and the tire looks like it might be okay. So we'll say the tires are fine, the rear wheel's toast, so we need to do that. Okay, onto the chain. My goodness. I don't know if it has a quick, it doesn't matter if it's a quick link. I'm just going to use a chain tool and just pop this thing off, because I will be discarding it. Hopefully I don't break my chain tool. That would not be cool. A little puff of rust comes off of this. Wow. This is wow, this is like Bronco Orange. Holy cow, look at that. Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, that didn't have any lube on it originally, and then it sat outside. And this is what happens when you leave your bike out. The chains will rust. It's steel. So I will probably use it to measure, but I will definitely not clean that bad boy. That's a nope. So check the derailleurs, shifting. Oh, let's see. Do you hear that misfire? So it kind of gave up a little bit. So on these older shifters, there's the original grease that Shimano uses is kind of like this fluorescent green looking stuff. That hardens over time inside the shifter. So what it does is it catches those, stiffens up those pawls so they don't catch or ratchet very well. So when I use that in a SonicClean with a heating element of liquid with a simple green, it really breaks up all that gunk and gets it out of there. When I flush it out, then I use a light lube. I like this Tri-Flow Superior lube. This is the foam, which is kind of nice. It foams up in there and kind of just seeps into all those little cogs and so forth inside the shifter, and it makes it shift like butter, a lot better. So definitely will be sonic cleaning these shifters. So I think they're okay. Doesn't seem, they still feel really kind of tight, as in not a lot of slop in the shifting. So I think they'll recover really well. Brake pads are actually pretty decent. Chain ring, they are not shark teeth out, so those are good. Cassette, it might clean up. It's just with that one rusty chain. This one's actually plated, so it wasn't subjected to the elements like the chain was, lost to the abyss of rust. So we'll just cut some cables here, pull these derailleurs and brakes off, wipe down the frame, take a little gander, see if we have any damage that we need to be concerned about. Because that is the most important or most expensive part of the bike, is the frame and fork. So if the frame and fork or the frame is compromised, you basically have a box of parts. Nobody wants that, nor do I. So taking these guys off. And okay, so on the derailleur cable housing, if your housing has a little notch like this, that means the housing wasn't long enough. So it's binding up against that derailleur. So if you have a nice loop to it, it gives a better efficient shifting. So I would probably add a 1/4 inch to an inch or 1/2 inch on this length to make it have a nice loop to shift. So the gold nugget there for you. The little pulleys, jockey pulleys look good. Not too terrible. And again, I kind of bought this bike on the whim in the sense I didn't overly inspect it in the field. So let's see what kind of scariness, more scariness. So let's kind of reflect here. Cables, bar tape, pedals. We're talking about like at least 60 bucks. Chain, another 20. Rear wheel, ooh, that's an expensive lift. That could be 100 bucks. So we're definitely looking at $200 in parts already, just to get this thing going. Let's see if we don't come across any other major issues here. And yeah, the $100 for the rear wheel, that's just, you know, an expensive rear wheel. It's not like anything special. So, but hopefully I can salvage it. But when you have spoke tensions that out of whack, that usually means there's something really bad going on there. And that definitely needs to be addressed. So let's just take a look at this brake. Rarely I've seen brakes where they have issues. The only times they had issues is if it's been in a crash, that kind of thing. So, let's get this cleaned up. Yeah, it just looks like it's dirty, so that might be salvageable. Well, I'm surprised that this particular jockey pulley isn't cracked, considering its age, that kind of thing. And too bad it was thrown in the elements, but it does happen periodically. Let's get that front brake off. And that looks pretty good. So right now we're looking at about $200 so far. That's just for parts. Let's just call it that. And these do have the self-extracting cranks, which is kind of nice. That's if I can get them to release. That means it's been tight on there for a while. So we spec the chain rings, and the chain rings look actually not too bad, just dirty. Those will probably clean up pretty good. Let's get this other crank arm off. Ooh, that resonated through the hand. Yowza. Need to get some padded gloves. And I feel the bottom bracket. It doesn't feel too bad. It doesn't seem too crunchy. All right, let's dive into this bike and take some swipes at it with some cleaner. I use Purple Power Diluted. That really kind of helps cut and clean. It's my first stage of getting rid of the first layer of dirt. And I inspect each tube at a time. So the seat stays, they look like they're intact. The chain stay looks good. The sticker looks good, so it doesn't look like it's been used too much. The non-drive chain stay, non-drive seat stay. And I'm not feeling any chips or scarring, so that's good. Seat tube. There's a little bit of chipping of the decaling here, so it looks like more of a rack, car rack kind of. And these stickers on this particular paint, they weren't clear coated on there per se. They were just kind of stuck on there afterwards. So you'll see some. The head badge is missing. That's something I might be able to find on eBay and get a nice replacement. Oh, the fork feels pretty good. Let's cut that little computer off, which there's no computer, just the mount, which doesn't matter because computer tech has changed so much. Everybody goes by their watches anyway, unless they're going to invest into the Garmins, that kind of deal. So this side looks great. All right, we're coming to final conclusion. A couple more things to check. Which is kind of cool is they put a little check stamp on the dropouts here. You know, and if I'm lucky, they'll actually be stamped for the size on here somewhere, or I'll have to measure it out to figure out what size it is. And also look underneath. Always check underneath, see if there's any scary scratches, dings, cracks, any of that good stuff. Make sure there's a serial number. It is dirty. Dirty bike. We are going to give you a big old cleaning. There we go. Wow. Not too many chips or scratches, per se. A little bit of decal scuffage from racks or whatever, but other than that, the blue is actually really intact. One last thing I want to double check is these bow cage mounts. So I have before come across these, and they were cross-threaded. Then you have to end up cutting it off, and it's a big old mess to get this all cleared up. So the first one's good. Give those a little bit of cleaning there. And looks like the second one feels normal too. So let's get that off. So looking at the frame, I have to measure it out and see. This particular vintage too is this wasn't compact, so it's one of those things that was pretty straightforward. You can measure the, I'll show you here, the top tube and the down tube, and it's usually square. So center to center, and we're looking at about 54, and center to here, the top is 54. So my inclination, this would be a 54 centimeter. Then that, it could easily be referenced to size and so forth that you would look for that particular bike. So going back to the parts, rear wheel, cables, housing, pedals, bar tape, maybe a seat, get rid of that rack. So we're looking at, and the chain, don't forget the chain. Ooh. Definitely easily $200 worth of parts. To do the labor on this particular bike would be probably a tune-up package around $150 to $200, maybe $250. So let's say $200. So you're in this bike for $400. Is it a gem? Well, it depends how much you paid for it. So if you put $400 into it, and let's say you spent $100, you're $500 into this. It's probably pretty close to what bicycle blue book value is, but that's really not really the thing here. The thing is the right size, it has decent componentry, has some nice wheels, if you can get the other wheel to work out, and it has some good bones. It'd be a really excellent starter bike. So yes, you're still under $1,000. You're actually still under $1,500 on a new bike, and with a new bike that has the bottom of the line componentry, you're already 2/3 cheaper, less expensive than that. So there you go. That's what it cost you. Easily $400 to fix this guy up and get it rolling, but it would be a very solid bike for you. For me, since I have maybe some tech skills, see how skilled I am to get that rear wheel. But anyway, that's what that's going to cost you. But check it out. After all this, this is what it came out to look like.